Hello viewers, good to be with you again. My name is Winfred and today I've decided that we make cupcakes, chocolate cupcakes. The reason I chose those ones is because I've not done them before, for you to see how they are made, and in case you're interested in learning, today we are going to be able to learn how to make them. Now, I would first of all want to thank my viewers. Thank you so much for watching. And the subscribers, you're something else. Thank you, I'm grateful and I see the love. But getting back to our cupcakes, what we are going to need is 2 bowls, or a bowl and a flat plate, whichever you have at home. This will help us handle the wet and dry ingredients. And we are going to need a spatula. We are also going to need this kind of spoon, or any spoon you have at home, that will help you scoop out your butter to put in the tray. And we are also going to need some buttermilk. I'll explain to you how to make buttermilk later. Some granulated sugar, some flour, eggs, some vegetable oil or cauliflower oil, cocoa. This is unsweetened and natural. Some chocolate chips. Now these are optional. Soda bicarbonate. We are going to need also some baking powder, some vanilla essence, but in my case I'll use this essence because my vanilla essence is not much. We'll need some cupcake peppers and some salt. Yes, salt. And then we are going to need our baking trays. Now we start off with putting peppers in our baking trays. Now we start off with putting of our cupcake peppers in our tray. Now my recipe, as you see at the end of the video, will have measurements. Now feel free to double yours depending on the servings. My servings are ×3, so whatever the recipe is now is ×3, but for you I'll put measurements for just ×1, and you multiply as your servings are. Now after putting peppers in my tray, I'll put it away. Now this is part of the pre-preparation of the cupcakes. When I'm done, I'll get my bowl and I'll get my other bowl as well. I'm going to start off with mixing of my dry ingredients. Now watch, not all dry ingredients are going to go in this one. I'll mix some of them and then some will wait for later. Now for now, I'll put the flour. Remember, this is ×3 of whatever the measurements are on here. I'll also add my baking powder. I'm going to need a teaspoon. This is how my teaspoon looks. Now I'm also going to triple my measurements with this baking powder. It is ideally supposed to be 3/4, but because it's 3/4 and I'm ×3, I'll put 1 first. Two, and 3 of the baking powder. Now I'm also going to need baking soda. I'll put 1½ teaspoon of baking soda. Now the baking soda, I'll put 1.5 spoons. Now this has to be flattened. For this cupcake to rise, I need to use both the baking powder and baking soda, and I'm going to use 1.5 spoons because I've tripled my measurements for this case. But if you are doing it and you're not going to triple, that would mean you just use 1/2 spoon. Now I'll put in also my cocoa. Now this one, I'm going to need 41 grams, or should I say 1/2 cup. Now if you don't have the cup, you can use you can measure using your measurements, and you just use 41 grams. Now these 41 grams, because in my case I'm multiplying by 3, I'll have to use 123 grams, like I'm going to show you. Now I'll need some cocoa in my cupcakes. Because I've measured my grams and multiplied everything times 3, you will also do yours depending on your servings. Now mine will be 123 grams of cocoa. I'll mix it in here. And then I'll put in some coffee as well. I use a teaspoon of coffee, but because I'm going to use to multiply mine by 3, that will mean I'll need 3 teaspoons of coffee. Now this will give me my really dark chocolatey cupcakes. I'll put also some 3/4 of salt. It will help my cake come out better. Then I'll whisk these together so that they mix well. I don't want to have bits of my cake with more of cocoa or more of the flour or more of the baking powder or soda. So you mix well until you see that everything has been mixed and absorbed. And once they are mixed together, there shouldn't be any trace of anything by itself. All of the the ingredients have to have made a nice blend. And once this is done, the reason I go for these chocolate cupcakes, they are easy and quick, as opposed to maybe other cupcakes. This should give me, preparation time should be about 15 minutes, and the cooking time should be between 18 to 20 minutes, depending on your cooker. Now, as you can see, mine, it's getting there. But you mix until you see no trace of one ingredient. Everything should be already blended together. So if you still see traces of one item, you mix until it's all dissolved. Now, once my dry ingredients are mixed, I get to the wet ones and some of the dry ones. That means I'll use another bowl. That's why I told you you need 2 bowls or 2 containers where your baking is going to take place, or your pre-preparation for the cupcakes will take place. Now this will ensure my salt, my soda, baking soda and baking powder, flour are all blended. And once I've achieved that, this will go on the side. And then I'll get my other bowl and put the dry ingredients. Now, remember I told you we need buttermilk. Now, you may say you don't have buttermilk. I didn't have it, but guess what I did? I got my milk, because I had milk in the house, and then I added some apple cider vinegar. If you don't have apple cider vinegar, you can use lemon juice, or you can use vinegar, just enough to get this kind of thickened milk. Now in Uganda we call this bongo, so in case you have bongo in the house, this is what I'm talking about. It's called buttermilk. So this will give you the really soft and moist cupcake instead of using milk. Now you get your dry ingredients, your wet ingredients. This will include, now it's time for the wet ingredients. We get our eggs. Now because tripling my ingredients, I'm going to use 6 eggs. That means if you are doing it at home and it's just you, you would use only 2 eggs. This is easy to do at home, and you make yourself a good breakfast or an accompaniment for the evening tea, or a dessert if you want to call it so. Now I'll break all my 6 eggs, and when I'm done, I'll add my brown sugar, granulated sugar. In this case, I'm going to use caster sugar as well. I put all my sugars in there. This is 100 grams of each, but because I've tripled, mine will be 300 because my servings are more. Then I'll add my essence. It should be like a spoonful, but I'll use all of it because it's not enough. I'll use about 2.5, but if you have, it should be 3 teaspoons. Then you have to add also actually here you just whisk until you see that they are completely blended. You don't need a hand mixer for this one. That's why this cake is easy. In case you don't have a cake mixer or hand mixer, you can do it at home with just a whisker like this one. Now we are going to add oil as well. Now I'm going to need my soft spatula to get around the corners. If you have these spatulas, they will also help around the kitchen, because this one gets to corners that the hard spatula would not get to. Now after I've added my oil, this is vegetable oil, guys. You don't have to stress over what kind of oil to use. It's vegetable oil. Now you whisk until you get a fine consistency. This is about 80 ml for one serving, one recipe, but I've tripled mine, so this will be about 240 ml. Now once I see a desired consistency. Now this has to be completely smooth. If you find this is hard, then you can use the electrical mixer. Because I see some crumbs, probably from my sugar, until you see a smooth These are ingredients we all have bumped into at one point. Now after this, if I see a smooth texture, I pour in half of my wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. You remember the ones we handled first? After you're happy with the texture, whereby there are no crumbs and everything is blended into your mixture. Once you see no crumbs, you can go ahead and add half of this, not all of it, half, into your dry mixture. You will see the reason for that. The reason why we put half is because if you put all of it and then you over mix, your cupcakes won't come out as moist, and you want them moist. So I'll remove this and bring back my dry ingredients and then put half of this in. And after this, I'll use my hard spatula and mix. I'm supposed to whisk gently, but I'll use my spatula to do this. I need some pockets of air in my cupcake so that it can come out moist. Now, using the electrical cake mixer or hand mixer may be a little bit too much effort added to my mixture. Now here after mixing, I would add, I don't want my egg mixture over whipped or whisked, so that's why I'm putting just half. You will see the chocolatey look in your butter. Now here I can apply more effort, but when I add the rest of the ingredients, then I slow down. I don't use too much effort because I don't want it too tough. And a thick butter will make your cupcakes, will make them to become more like brownies as opposed to being cupcakes. So you need to get that consistency right. Now it's time for me to add in half of my buttermilk and whisk gently. You should see how creamy it looks. Now I'm going to mix gently until it's blended in. This will guarantee you nice, moist and soft chocolate cupcakes. Now, over mixing of this butter will make our buttercream runny and thin, so we avoid it. That's why I said we don't use the cake mixer or the hand mixer. Needs to be gentle mixes. Now you do this until everywhere has mixed very well. And then we bring in the other half of our ingredients. Now because our butter will be runny, you don't want to put it in the paper cups when you're not ready to bake. It has to be that you're ready to bake. Now would be a good time to turn on your cooker to 180 degrees in order to preheat it. so that when we put our butter in the cupcake peppers, we are guaranteed that it won't now. Once we are done mixing, this is how it would look. We transfer it to our leftover wet ingredients, which were the eggs, the oil. You remember the ones we started off first and we did half of? Now here we are going to do gentle mixes because we don't want our cupcakes to become too airy. So I'm putting everything together. And then I'm also going to get my buttermilk, the leftover, because I was using half of it. Now you see the advantage of that soft spatula in case you happen to find it in shops, in stores around you. The reason why the soft one is good, it will be able to get all that butter that is left on the corners of the plate. Something this hard one cannot do. You watch as it cleans. You see how it cleans and removes all my butter, so I don't lose out on my good ingredients. See how it's cleaning and leaving no trace of what I've used. I'll do the same to my plate or my bowl in case you're using one, and it will give me that clean sweep, as you can see here. That way I lose nothing. I get all my butter in my dish. Now once this is done, I'll add my buttermilk. Remember I said you can make it at home. You cannot beat yourself up that I've not got the buttermilk. You can make it at home using those simple ingredients earlier discussed. Now you see how my plate is clean. Then I'll add also my buttermilk and do gentle folds. Here you just stir until combined, and then it's good to go. You see that you have brown through, so it's easy to gauge that have I overmixed or is that enough. Once you see that it's all blended well, then you've done a good job. Time to tray your cupcakes and put them in. Now once we preheated our oven. Because we preheated, now we are going to put them in for about 18 to 20 minutes. You'll be able to see for yourself. I don't know what kind of cooker you have, but whatever it is, all you have to do is put in maybe a toothpick or the skewers. If there is no butter coming on, raw butter coming on your skewer or toothpaste, your cupcakes should be ready. Now also we avoid overfilling of our cupcakes. Overfilling of our cupcakes will cause spillage and also cause our top to sink in, because then it won't be able to rise. Instead it will sink in, which is not what you want, unless you want to glaze your cupcakes after. But in my case I'm not going to, but I'll show you what else I can do to my cupcakes instead of glazing. Now this is ready. Time for me to put in the cupcake peppers. By the time you do your cupcake peppers, you need to be ready to put in the oven when you're done, because once the cupcake peppers sit for long, your cupcakes will stick to the pepper too much. Now, this is optional, using of the chocolate chips. It's optional. I'll drop in a few for my kids because they enjoy biting through chocolate. Just a handful is enough. And if you don't have, don't beat yourself about it. Just, it's good to go the way it is, even without the chocolate chips. Now, after you've mixed your chocolate chips in there, you use your spoon, whatever size of spoon you're using, to measure, and then you scoop out your butter and put in the cupcake peppers. Now, I'll use my spoon to measure and then put, it has to be half a pepper cup, because if you put more, it looks like it is small, but remember we used baking soda, baking powder, so it should be enough for your cupcake. Only one spoon, any spoon that can measure half a cup is good enough. Now we'll clean up on the mess later. No worries about the drips, as long as you put it in dry, because once it is wet on the edges, then when they burn, they don't smell good, and some of that burnt smell may get into our cupcakes. So when we are done scooping, we clean up on the edges and make sure our tray is clean as and when it enters the oven. All this sweetness, my goodness, your people will love you for this. Now this is the last one of my cupcake batter, and once I've put it in, you check to see if there are any drips. If there is any, you clean up. Otherwise, my oven is waiting and time to put these in. They should be in for about 18 to 20 minutes. Once they are done at 180 degrees Celsius, they should be looking good. You see the product. Now this is how they look after 10 minutes of baking. But remember we said 18 to 20 minutes. Now mine are starting to rise. And also remember I put half of the butter in there. I did not put a full pepper cup. So you can see they are risen because of the baking soda and baking powder. Now let's give it a few more minutes, like more 10 minutes. It should be ready, and we'll take out our cupcakes and you'll see how they look. Hello there again. Now you can see that our cupcakes, the chocolate cupcakes, are ready, and this is how they would look. These things are light and fluffy and moist inside. If you want to see how they look, this is how it would look. And whoever you serve your cupcake will be testing all the goodies in there. Now, there is going to be a following video after this one that will show you how to frost your chocolate cupcakes. Now, inside here are bits of the chocolate chips that we put in there. It is nice, it's moist, it's soft. If you want to know how to frost your chocolate cupcakes, join us in the video that will follow after this one and learn how to frost your chocolate cupcakes. See you again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for viewing. And in case you're wondering why is the top like this, the chocolate cupcakes do not raise up hip like the normal cupcakes do. These ones become flat, leaving room for you to frost them. That is why you see they are not risen up like the normal ones. These ones, once you heat them up too much, they'll sink right in. So in order to avoid that, you put half of the butter in there, and they should come out flat so you can frost. So in the next video, as you'll watch, you'll see how I'll frost them and how they would look. Join us again next time when we are frosting our cupcakes. Bye-bye.